Hello, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton. Happy Pride Month. I hope you had a great month of reading and I hope you are celebrating Pride however you choose, whether or not it's out and about or at home or with your pets. I just hope you are living your best life. The month of June reading has been I was losing hope for a little bit. I wasn't getting anything that I was considering like a new favorite. I always love to find new favorites each month when I'm reading new books and trying new authors. There's a couple in my stack that I was like, oh, I've been really excited to read this. And one in particular was like, what a hot mess of a book. But I did find some new favorites I'm really excited to talk about. Without further ado, let's get into it. I made such a mess with this small amount of glitter. I think this is a small amount. I could have done more. I resisted, but I have little ice cream earrings that have glitter. It'll be a fun day. We're going out. Pride in Minneapolis is going on a little bit later, like early afternoon, so I just wanted to take care of this wrap up before I went out and show you my cute little outfit. This was totally, I was watching a video with Rachel, and I think her tag is a model who reads. I love her channel. She is hilarious and great. Her vlogs, it's like talking to like one of your best friends. This is totally like a Mean Girls. I saw Regina George wearing a tank top and flip-flops or whatever, so I bought a tank top and flip-flops. It was totally a moment she was wearing this. This is from Good Times Creative. I got this on their Etsy and yeah, it's so cute. Check them out if you're interested. They have a lot of great stuff in their store. Thank you, Rachel, for totally influencing me to get this. But I'm gonna start from the books I like the least up until I had 2 5-stars this month. I'm sorry about the light changing. It's really sunny, luckily, but it's also really windy. So the tree outside my house is like, and this is a DNF. I'm gonna start off on a really sad note because I had very high hopes for this one. A Marvelous Light by Freya Marski. I'm super bummed about this one. It's historical fantasy set in the Edwardian era. It's following 2 men who are in this magical historical society in London. I got really confused about the magic system. I don't know, I didn't really understand the plot. Plot was very, very slow going. Like, I did like their banter and I could tell I got about halfway through. Their romance was like growing, but it was so slow going and I was kind of losing interest in the main. What's with this? I'm just gonna ignore that. I was losing interest, find myself not really caring how it turned out. This is book 1 in a series, and I think you could read them all as standalones. They're just all set in the same world. I just couldn't get into it. I'm so bummed. I just found myself just not caring. Let me know down below if I should give this a chance and finish it. It just really I wasn't loving it. But let me know if I should dive back into the series. Maybe there's another one of the other 2 books that have different characters, like that is more interesting, different plot, but yeah, I'm bummed about it. This one, I was super excited about this one because I thought it was going to be like a weird girl book, which I normally do like weird girl books. Really screwed up main female protagonist who just make very questionable decisions, and I don't know, there's something else moving the plot forward. I just really didn't like this. A Good Happy Girl by Marissa Higgins. I also heard after I bought this, Marissa Higgins got into some not great behavior with someone who gave a negative review of her book, and she went after them on social media, and now like all of her accounts are private, and it's just not a good look. This isn't very highly rated to begin with. I don't know if some of that is backlash for how she acted or if it's just people didn't like the book. I didn't like the book. I didn't like it at all. I gave this 2 stars. The only reason I did is because of some of the... Let me back up. Let me talk about this. This is about Helen, who is an attorney. She is very self-destructive. She had very messed up childhood. Both of her parents were addicts, and now both of her parents are in jail for an act of neglect within the family. Helen had a brother who passed when they were young, and she always questioned what really happened. But I'm just going to spoil it right now. You never find out. You never find out what happened to him. And it was like, that was one of the main things I wanted to find out, was like, did her parents also do something? Like, was it also an act of neglect? Or was it something else that was very traumatic to her? and kind of set the tone for the rest of her life being really unstable. She gets into a lot of relationships with lesbian couples and it's just very self-destructive. She's not good at keeping friends. I don't know how she has a job. She doesn't know how she has a job. It was bridging on like gross girl, weird lit. I would say like Eileen, but I thought Eileen was so much better orchestrated and satisfying to read, and the character in Eileen was such a more, I won't say likable, but I thought she was such a more compelling character than Helen. Helen's just annoying. She gets involved with this married lesbian couple and she basically wants them to mean mother her. It's not a long book. It's a little bit over 200 pages, but it kind of just goes nowhere. And by the end of it, I was just like, well, that was a big waste of my time. And I hate when that happens. I'm so annoyed by this. This obviously went through an editor. This obviously got published, but nothing happens. Like, I would say it's a character study, but it's just like there's also nothing really that happens. The plot is like barely there. I just didn't like this book. If you liked it, great. Like, if you like weird, gross girl lit, oh man, do I have a front runner for you. The reason this got 2 stars is because the commentary on what Helen goes through with having addicts for parents like really resonated with me, because I grew up having one addict parent who was a stranger in my house, and it definitely affected me in a lot of ways growing up and into adulthood negatively. Not so much Helen, but I also didn't have parents who did an extreme form of neglect to another family member. The parts where she was talking about that like were really heartbreaking, and I did empathize with her, but it wasn't enough to make me really like it wasn't enough to make me like her or really like the book because it just doesn't go anywhere. And then the whole author coming after a reader, it just makes me feel ick. So I don't recommend this one. I recommend it if you like gross girl lit with absolutely no plot, just gross vibes. It's a lot of talk about bodily fluids and hygiene and lack of hygiene, and yeah, so I thought this was a giant waste of my time and I don't want to talk about it anymore. That will definitely be unhauled very soon. The next book was for my IRL book club that ended up getting canceled because of bad weather and it was like really storming one night, so I was just like, let's just cancel. I honestly don't think I'd have a lot to say about the book, and it was my turn to pick. Like, I give an option of like 2 to 3, and we vote, and everyone voted for this one. And another book in this stack was also on that list, which was incredible, and I wish I just picked it, but we ended up with Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan. I had heard if you liked Douglas Stewart, you would really like Mayflies or Andrew O'Hagan's writing. I don't see the comparison. This was just so meh and so flat, and I don't know if it was because of the plot or the writing. Like, some of the writing, I did highlight some, but some of the writing was really beautiful and touching, but overall I just really didn't like it. This is set in 2 timelines. That the first half of the book is set in the summer of 1986 in Manchester. There's a group of friends, 2 best friends in particular are the main focus in this book, James and Tully. Tully is a very bright, loud, engrossing character. Like, everyone loves him. Everyone wants to be his friend. He can do no wrong. He's one of those people who just makes everyone laugh, and everyone's drawn to him. And it's narrated mainly by James, his best friend. And the summer they go to this massive punk rock concert in Manchester. That's the first half of the book. And the second half is set 30 years later, and Tully has news for James. I'm just gonna put spoiler if you don't want to know what the news is, but put like a little do. Okay, spoiler. Tully has an advanced form of cancer and he's dying, and he's having a hard time. He's still pretty young. He's having a hard time reconciling the fact that he is going to die. He's had this full life and he wants to continue having a full life, and he didn't think he would die so young. So it's a lot of James and Tully reliving some glory days, like talking about the glory. It's a lot of talking. I mean, it is very sad, but it also, like, I was just bored. It was very one note. The first part was really confusing. I think if you are from London, you'd probably understand it a little bit more than I would. Just a lot of the dialect and the references I didn't really get. I was just super bored. This was super one note. Yeah, I was really bummed that this was like part of my round of book club to pick, but I'll talk about the other one that we didn't pick in a few minutes because it was so good. The next book I read was Memorial by Bryan Washington. You know, when I finished this, I thought it was just like a solid 3. Like, this was a good book. It was fine. And the longer it sat with me, the more I really, really, really like it. This is about a couple, Mike and Benson. Mike is a Japanese-American chef. He describes himself as really overweight and lazy and not really driven outside of his fusion bar restaurant that he works at. He has a very strained relationship with his parents, especially his father, who moved back to Japan when Mike was younger, has never really accepted the fact that he's gay. And then Benson is a HIV positive daycare worker. They've been in a relationship for 4 or 5 years. Whereas Mike is really loud and charismatic, Benson is more reserved and timid and a little shy. He also has a very hard relationship with his parents, especially his father, who's an alcoholic, and his mother and father have never really gotten around to the fact that his son is gay, and it got worse when he told him he was HIV positive. So they both have very strained relationships with their parents. At the beginning of the book, Mike and Benson have been together for a few years, like I said, but they're kind of wondering if they should still be together. They're kind of hit this impasse. They've been fighting a lot. They haven't really been happy. Mike's mom calls and said that his dad in Japan is sick and dying and doesn't have a lot of time left. And it's set in Texas. She's coming to Texas to stay with them. They haven't seen each other in a few years. Mike immediately decides he's going to go to Japan to see his father and try to mend their broken relationship as he's dying. Little Miss Rosie wants to say hi. Hello, don't mess up my glitter. I know. You want to be on camera too. It's okay. As soon as he picks her up from the airport, he turns back around, goes to the airport, takes a flight to Japan, leaving Benson and Mike's mom as roommates, funny roommates, and they get to know each other more and get to like each other and form this really funny friendship. And then it's dual POVs, like each chapter is either Mike or Benson. And while Mike's in Japan, he's trying to fix this very fractured relationship with his father and starts working at the bar restaurant his father has owned and operated for a really long time. The problem I had with this book is that I didn't really feel that Mike and Benson ever had a good relationship. There was a handful of flashback moments earlier in their relationship. It just always felt toxic. It didn't really feel like this loving, beautiful relationship. It just always felt very complicated. It felt very abusive in some instances where they would yell and push and get physical. And it didn't really ever feel like they were very monogamous either. But I did really love the perspective of these two men who were not white gay men, and I really liked Benson's perspective. And then also the dialogue really bugged me, like how it was written. It was a lot of like, how are you? Good. Yeah. It's very short and clipped. I felt like a lot of the characters were kept at arm's length, that we never really fully got to know them as deeply as I wanted to. I did overall like this. I just wanted a little more by the end of it, but I would recommend this. I'm definitely going to read more of Bryan Washington and definitely branch out from reading non-white gay characters in books. I would like to read more of that because I've noticed like some of my past reads have been very white leaning, and I would just want a different perspective. Getting a little hot. So hot in Minnesota. Oh my goodness. The next book I was super excited about. I picked it up at my local romance bookshop, and this was on the front table, and it sounded really interesting. It is a YA book, which I'm trying to gravitate more towards. I'm very hit or miss with YA. I think I've grown out of it a little bit, but I did really like this book overall. It is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. This is set in the 1950s, McCarthy, Red Scare era in San Francisco, and this follows high school senior Lily. Lily is a Chinese American. Her parents are immigrated here. They really want to present themselves as very American, very patriotic, very successful, very straight-laced family. And they expect a lot of Lily. Lily is a senior, and once she starts feeling that she may be gay, and she it becomes more and more evident that, yes, I am gay, and she's not sure what to do or who to talk to, and she befriends a classmate. Her name's Cass, and Cass takes her to the Telegraph Club, which is a local gay bar in San Francisco, where Lily just blossoms. They start to develop feelings for each other, and it's very, very sweet. It's very, very charming. In the background of the story, Lily's also dealing with her dad's relationship with other Chinese American who the FBI has slated as possible communists and have taken his papers away, and with threat of deportation. So Lily's even more scared of being open and honest with them, and also sneaking around at night with Cass, but she just really wants to live her life and live her truth. And the things that it's a pretty long book, the things that I didn't like about it, I gave this about 3.5, 4 stars. What I didn't like about it is that I felt like Cass was a very flat character. I think she was just presented as Lily's dream girl, but you never really get to know more about her, and I desperately wanted to know more about her, because you know so much about Lily and her thoughts and her feelings, and I kind of wanted Cass' perspective too. And there are a few chapters that are flashbacks with Lily's mom, dad, and her aunt, and where they came from in 10, 20 years in the past, what they did to get to the US and survive, like their inner workings and their thoughts and their hopes for their family. I didn't really think that was necessary, honestly. Like, I don't think we needed they weren't long chapters, but I don't think we needed it, and there's like a timeline next to it. I would have much rather had like a chapters like from Kat's perspective, or a little bit more about Cass. I just felt like she was kind of forgotten. Especially by the end of it, it's just like, okay, see ya. I mean, something really traumatic happens at the end, but it's also just like presented more as like Lily's dream girl, dream crush, and that was all she kind of ever was throughout the book, and that was just something that really bothered me. But I overall did really like this. I really wish this had been around when I was younger, around their age group in high school. Like, I think this is really important to read. Yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I did like it. Okay, now we're getting into some favorites of the month. I'm super excited to talk about one. One I'm probably gonna cry about. I'm not crying, it's mascara. The book that we didn't pick for my book club, which was an option, I should have just said we're reading this, and that's The Changeling by Victor LaValle. This was so good. This slapped. This was so good. It was my first Victor LaValle. And this is a horror fantasy, more so on the horror part towards the beginning, and then dipping into fantasy magical realism at the end of it. I loved this. And according to the sticker, it's been adapted to a show and stars Lakeith Stanfield, who I love, and he's perfect for the main character. This follows our main character, Apollo, at the beginning of the book. As a young boy, his dad leaves him when he's 4. He just walks out, drops off the face of the planet. No idea what happened to him. Years go by, Apollo's 12, and there's a knock at the door, and his father drops off this box that's just labeled Improbabilia. It has all these little trinkets from his mom and dad's relationship. There's a book in there, Murray Sandak book, and just some odd stuff, but then nothing. Get a glimpse into Apollo as a child, and he's a voracious reader. He loves books. So much so that it influences his career as an adult as a book dealer, bookseller of rare antique books. He meets Emma Valentine, who is a librarian. They have this beautiful blossoming romance together. They get married and they start a family. That's like the first little chunk of the book. And then Emma gets pregnant and has a baby, and they name Brian, and Apollo is just happy, ecstatic, and he wants to be the father that he never had. But then Emma starts acting very strangely and very erratically a few months after Brian is born. I love when horror tackles postpartum depression and female psychosis and motherhood. That's one of my favorite things to read through a horror lens, because it is so horrifying for people who have to go through this, not just the mother, but also the partner. Emma commits a very horrific act, and that chapter is written so freaking well. Man, I was so like tensed up. Like, it was written so damn well. Emma commits this horrific act and then disappears, leaving Apollo just completely shattered and unsure of his life. And Brian is missing. Something happens with Brian, and it's so earth-shattering. But then Apollo starts to dig and hunt for Emma. and he gets all these little tidbits of information that starts this odyssey looking for Emma and Brian throughout the latter half of the book. And it involves witches and fairy tales and horror, and it's just so weaved together, all backdrop of New York City. Like how these little pockets in New York just hold so much fantastical elements, and I love the story that Victor LaValle constructed. The writing was impeccable. I want to read more, like now. I want to read like all of his books, and I cannot wait to check out the show. I've heard it's really good too, but this was great. It was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. If you love fairy tales, if you love adventure, if you love amazingly well-written characters, father-son relationships, mother-son relationships, trauma, depression, anxiety, like just all just written and presented so well. Like this was great. I loved this. Okay, and I finally, so many people have told me to read this book, and I don't know why it's taking me so damn long to read it, and I annotated the shit out of this. She just had a new book release, which I'm going to buy. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Wow, y'all were right. This was great. This was so good. Man, this is a sapphic literary horror, underwater, like I didn't realize how much I really liked ocean horror, sea horror. How do I describe that? Underwater horror? Maybe sea horror. Aquatic horror? It doesn't matter. This was cool. This is about a couple, Miri and Leah. Leah is a marine biologist who at the beginning of the book goes on this deep sea submarine. She works for this company called The Center, and who like I think specializes in a lot of marine biology and scientific research. At the beginning of the book, she's supposed to go on a dive that's supposed to last a week, a couple days, something like that, something minor. She's gone for months, and her wife Miri is at a loss. She has no idea what to do. She's getting little to no information from Leah's employer. She's just spiraling and unsure of what's going to happen. And then Leah comes back. They surface, but it's not Leah. She's different. She's changed. And it's all set in their apartment mainly, and it's dual perspectives. The chapters are with Miri, it's set in the present, and dealing with Leah and how she's different and changed, and all the things that start happening with Leah's body. Like her skin just starts like pinprick, like bleeding blood. Her gums are bleeding. She spends a lot of time in the bathroom around water. She has these weird lesions on her body, and she's just very listless and not there. Doesn't really speak anymore, doesn't really eat, just wants to be around water. The other chapters are from Leah's perspective, leading up to the dive, the actual dive, and what happened down there. Her state of mind being down there and then coming back up. There's a lot of body horror, especially towards the end of the book, where it's just wild. And then I loved their relationship. I loved a lot of the flashback moments with Leah and Miri and their relationship, and like their little couple idiosyncrasies, and just how much they loved each other, to the present where it's just the complete opposite. And it's so heartbreaking. This is one of the saddest, most beautiful stories about this couple. It's such a beautiful love story. It's such a heartbreaking love story, and Julia Armfield's writing is just stunning, so poetic. And there's such a great commentary on grief too, because Miri's mother is sick and is passing. It's a smaller part of the book, but also the mourning of not only the strong parent in your life, but also the mourning of a relationship and how much it changes. And I think it's a metaphor for people changing in a relationship and growing apart, and how painful that is when you've started from something so promising and beautiful and you've built a life together, and how dramatically it can change, and how shattering that is for one, if not both, of the people involved. And so much beautiful commentary on grief. Girl! Yeah, this was incredible. Like, highly, highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. It's just gorgeous. I don't think I've read a literary horror romance quite like this. I use romance lightly because I don't think it's as heavy. It sounds so heavy-handed, and it's not. But it's just so beautiful. And then my absolute favorite book I read this month. I actually read it twice. It's a graphic novel. I read it twice and I cried. It was so... I don't want to cry because I don't want to mess up my makeup, but... oh my god. I haven't even told you what the damn book is yet. The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. This was impeccable. This was so stunning. Not only is the illustrations just so jaw-droppingly beautiful, but the story is so incredible. This is about Tien, who is a early teenager. I think he's in middle school. He knows he's gay. His parents are immigrants from Vietnam. They don't speak English as well as he does growing up in America, and they bond a lot through fairy tales and stories, and he reads a lot of stories to his mother at night when they're spending time together. It's so sweet. Tien knows he is gay, and he is struggling how to communicate that to his parents when there isn't a word for it. There isn't a word in their language for being gay. Just this, it's such a beautiful exploration of language and love and fairy tales and being true to yourself and feeling loved from your parents and wanting the love from your parents, and them knowing this about you and hoping that they don't change their love for you. It's just so gorgeous. There's also commentary on what a home is and feeling so far from your home and feeling lost in the world, and the illustrations are just so gorgeous. Like, every page is just so freaking gorgeous. Like, it's just so stunning. It's just so, oh my god, like, oh my god, it just made me cry. It's so beautiful. And I didn't know that they are a Minnesota-based author. Hell yeah. Highly, highly recommend. I'm so glad I picked this up. This is one of my absolute favorite new graphic novels, favorite new books. I cannot recommend it enough. Interwoven throughout I don't know why I did this. Interwoven throughout the story, the fairy tales that Tien's reading to his mother, a lot of Hans Christian Andersen tales like The Little Mermaid, and like a spin on that. Like, that story is so beautiful too. It's such, what a talent. What an absolute talent. Like, these are just so stunning. That's it. That's all the books I read in June. It was, like you saw, a pretty all over the place month, but I did have some winners in there, and I'm always happy about that. But I hope you are having a wonderful day. I hope you are just living your best life. As always, thank you for clicking. Thank you for watching, and I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!